Welcome to my third book review. Today's book is going to be Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. We're going to go over the exactly kind of an overview of it, generally what happens. Then we're going to get into discussing what the book is about, the themes, and the possible theories about what the book is actually trying to say. First off, let's go over what the actual book is about, what the actual plot is. Basically, it comes down to a very simple plot. There is this place. It's called a house. It's almost infinite in size. It's a maze of different rooms filled with huge statues of basically anything, bears, people, centaurs, whatever, battles. It goes on apparently forever. It's surrounded by a sea. And in it there's this man. He answers to the name of Piranesi, although he doesn't think that's his real name. And there's only one other living person in the house with him that Piranesi calls the other. The other is consistently looking for some sort of magic ritual that will open up powers to people that can be granted by the house, and Piranesi just helps him with that. Very simple thing. To explain what happens in the book beyond that, at one time the other comes to Piranesi and explains that somebody new is coming to the house. They named this other person the number 616 because Piranesi knows of himself, the other, and 13 other bodies of dead people. They're really just down to like skeletons at this point. And so as far as Piranesi knows, there's only been ever 15 people in the entire world, and so a new person will be 16. The other warns Piranesi that 16 will make him go crazy if 16 talks to him, so do not talk to this other person. Piranesi just simply accepts that because, hey, he's only ever known the other. The other gives him things like shoes and vitamins and that kind of stuff. So Piranesi accepts that. Over time, we find out that the other has captured Piranesi in this world for his own devices, and number 16 is actually a woman named Raphael that has come to save him and bring him back to the real world. It's a little bit more complex than that, but I really am trying not to spoil too much of this book for you, simply because I want everybody to read this book. It's only 170 pages long. It's a relatively quick read, but there's a lot to it. There's a lot involved in this, and they're going to have to get into a little bit of spoilers right now just to be able to talk about it. Basically, the other is a follower of. Let's just say that's a cult that believes it can perform magic to access other worlds, and surprise, surprise, they actually can, because they can go from our world to this other world. And unfortunately, if you spend too much time in this other world of the infinite house, it makes you kind of lose memory of who you are. So the other couldn't actually explore the house on his own. He had to have somebody that he could trap there and force to explore it for him. So he grabs Piranesi, and Matthew Rose Sorensen is his real name, and traps him in this house. Waits for Piranesi to forget who he is, and then uses Piranesi to explore the house for him. He becomes like a tool in the other's game. It's a very bad person. 16, also known as Raphael, is a police officer that has found a way to access this house to try and find what happened to this Matthew Rowe Sorensen and bring him back, because obviously his family's looking for him. It's that's the basic spoilers. So, you were warned. But let's get into actually what the book is about. I have two things that I want to discuss. First is the themes of the book. There are a couple different themes that I actually want to get into. One of the major ones is themes about trauma and recovery. Piranesi, also known as Matthew, is the subject of a truly diabolical kidnapping and isolation, and basically he was turned into a tool by the other. Therefore, once he re-enters our world, which is the last couple chapters of the book, he ends up having a massively hard time. And he has to reintegrate into this world. He no longer identifies as Matthew or as Piranesi, but as a new person that contains both of them. One of the things about a lot of people that have dealt with trauma like this over their life is that they become very, 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 very empathetic to other people. And this is borne out by Piranesi. He's become very, very helpful to everybody. He doesn't want anybody to be hurt. He doesn't want to bring any pain. He wants to only help other people. He's almost regressed to a childlike state. So there is that theme. There is that ongoing theme of trauma and recovery, and possibly arrested development of a person's psyche of when this happens to them. There's also a certain amount of themes of Piranesi becoming a tool of other forces beyond his control. Piranesi, when he was in this world as Matthew, was a reporter. He was writing a book on this cult that these people were in, and he was trapped in this world by this cult, and was forced into this. This is totally beyond his control. He's also, while he's in this world, while he's in the house, he's controlled by the tides of the sea that surround the house. The most he can do is observe. He can't actively influence his future in that way. When Piranesi does make a choice, which is to re-enter our world, he finds that he can't come back as either Piranesi or Matthew. He has to be a new person that he sees as embodying both of them. Sorry, had a little bit of trouble saying that word, mainly because my cat is pressing her butt against me for some reason. Yes, I know, Abby. I'm talking. Say hello, Abby. Anyway, so basically, there's also sort of theme of perhaps we could look at Piranesi or Matthew as sort of like an everyman that's being controlled by forces beyond. We're all controlled to a certain extent by forces beyond our ability to interact with. The weather, our bosses, the economy, anything like that. So there's sort of a bit of that Piranesi as the everyman in a microcosm. I don't know if that's exactly what it was meant, but that was somewhat what I got from it. I would like to kind of look at the theories that I have over this book. There's a theory that I have that I had through. I had this through most of the book, that perhaps Piranesi is a person suffering a mental breakdown. Perhaps the house, the other, that kind of stuff are not real. They're just figments of his imagination. I'm not sure exactly how well that bears out in practice, because towards the end you have Raphael, who comes in to save him, traveling back to the house for basically for her own mental health needs. But I think if we go with a more allegorical concept, you could say that Piranesi suffered a mental breakdown. He was living in his own fantasy world. The woman Raphael comes and saves him, brings him back out of it. He integrates who he was both before having that mental breakdown and during the mental breakdown into a new person. And perhaps Raphael travels back to the place, this maybe like an asylum or something, where he had been kept to help other people. But I'm not totally sure. That's a very tenuous theory on my part. I'd like to hear if anybody else has that same theory while they're reading the book in the comments. There's also I've also heard and other people talking about this book that this is also a allegory about, I believe it was Plato's cave. The idea was in Plato came up with a theory of a person that was chained in a cave and could only look at a wall and could only experience the world by looking at the shadows that were projected on the wall. And when the chains were removed from this person and they went out and looked at the real world, they couldn't process it and had to go back and look at the wall. That almost plays into the concept of the mental health interpretation that I was just talking about. Because basically, obviously Piranesi cannot handle totally coming back to the real world. Piranesi can't. Piranesi is considered to have stayed in the house, and Piranesi lives inside the person that comes out. It's hard. It's kind of a hard thing to explain, in that the person that comes back to this world feels that he embodies Piranesi, not that he is Piranesi. So there could be a little bit of both of those theories in it. And of course, there's also a lot of references to things like the Narnia Chronicles. I mean, obviously, you have centaurs, that statues of centaurs in the house and that kind of stuff, and that kind of plays into that whole, oh gosh, maybe they were turned to stone. Although I think that's more just like a visual theme, not really a theory, but it's just kind of cool to point out. Basically, I just want to say everybody really ought to read this book. It's really good. I'd like to hear other people's ideas in the comments, because I have a feeling that this book has a lot of like metaphorical and mythological stuff in it that I probably missed, because I gotta admit, I'm not that smart. So, definitely read this book. Like I said, it's only 170 pages. It's probably only like a 2 or 3 day read, even if you're a really slow reader. And trust me, it's a page turner, so you'll want to read it relatively quickly. Anyway, that's it for this. Thanks for listening to me ramble about books, and we will talk again soon. Bye-bye. Stay positive.